There's an amazing halacha in Hilchos Chanukah. We know the Gemara says that the way Chazal, the way the rabbis told us to perform the mitzvah of Ner Chanukah, was to go ahead and lahanicho al Pesach beiso mibachutz. The Gemara says the way to perform the mitzvah of Ner Chanukah is to kindle the ner at the entranceway of your home, but not at the entranceway of the doorway. Al Pesach beiso mibachutz, outdoors. Now you have to understand something. When the Gemara talks about this, their model of home was as follows. You would have a home. In front of the home, you would have a courtyard, like a front yard, but it wasn't open. You would have then like a wall. That wall was the buffer between your courtyard and the public domain, and you'd have an entranceway to your courtyard. So you had like a gated property. You had a doorway, an entranceway, an archway going into your front yard. So where do you light the menorah? Not by the front door of your home, but rather again by the door of the gateway into your front yard. And the idea, of course, becomes this way: everybody who passes by on the public thoroughfare and their sarabim is able to see your Ner Chanukah. And the Kashnitzer Magid asks such an interesting question. He says, why? What's the pshat? You see, think about this for just a moment. Which would mean is, you would go out with your family, you would kindle the menorah by the entranceway to your courtyard, right in front of the public thoroughfare, the street. You'd light it, you'd say your brachas, you'd sing Haniros Mosur, and you'd come back in the house. It seems so different than the way we conceptualize Ner Chanukah today, right? What do? I light my Neros Chanukah, I say the brachas, I sing the songs, and then I love to sit there. I just love to sit in front of the candles. And then again afterwards, maybe we have dinner in front of the candles, play games, learn everything by the candles. The whole experience of Chanukah is to be in the presence of the Neros, to be in the presence of the candles. And yet amazingly enough, in the actual purest performance of the mitzvah, the way Chazal intended it, as espoused in the Gemara, is you light it by the entranceway of your courtyard, you see it for a couple of minutes, you go back inside the house, and that's it. And the Kashnitzer Magid says something so beautiful. He says Ner Chanukah has many different symbolisms and many different layers of meaning. But on a most basic level, the Ner Chanukah represents the Ner of Torah. It represents the Ner of holiness, the Ner of Torah, the Ner of relationship to Hashem, the Ner, the candle, the fire, the spark of spirituality. And the Kashnitzer Magid says something amazing. He says it's important to make sure that that spark is situated at the entranceway to your courtyard. Because so much of successful spirituality is based on what influences you allow into the confines of your home. What influences do you allow into your heart, into your soul? Sometimes we say to ourselves, you know what? I enjoy watching this, doing this. I know it's not so great, but it's not a big deal. In other words, it doesn't really represent my value system. I know it might even be antithetical to my value system, but I enjoy it. It's funny, it's pleasurable, whatever it is. And the good news is it won't impact who I am. And the truth is, even though we all say that to ourselves, at the end of the day, we also know that it's patently false. Because anything and everything we do has an impact on us. What we read impacts us. What we watch impacts us. What recreational activities we engage in impact us. Everything we do impacts us. Successful spirituality, says the Kashnitzer Magid, doesn't begin inside the home. It doesn't begin in the home. It begins at the entranceway of the courtyard into your front yard. Because the shaila becomes, what are you going to allow into your courtyard? What influences are you going to allow just from that first threshold, that threshold that demarcates? Here's the public domain, here's the private domain. What am I going to allow inside of that doorway? And therefore, says the Kashnitzer Magid, we light the Ner Chanukah. We light that spark of holiness, that spark of spirituality, not inside the house, not even again by the front door of the house, but the front door of the courtyard, to sensitize us to the reality of how vigilant we must be about the influences we allow into our lives. Because everything you allow through the front door of your courtyard will make its way to your home. And everything that makes its way into your home will make its way to you, to your children, and will find a way to seep into your heart and seep into your soul. The Ner Chanukah is like the spiritual guard, the spiritual sentry, standing at the entranceway into the private domain and forcing us to pay attention, to be attentive to the influences we allow into our lives. I hope that Emirat Hashem, our Ner Chanukah, will not only burn bright internally, but Emirat Hashem will illuminate the difference between the public domain and the private domain, and will sensitize us to the influences and the things we allow into our hearts and into our homes. Wishing everyone a wonderful day and a Freilichen Chanukah.